All righty. Zoom. All right, so I'm gonna, as you see, my assistant's here today. I was gonna give a little lecture, a little tiny little lesson at the beginning, because we talked about in today's email and over the last week with the poll that was in Facebook about certain things that I'm adding into the practice. And one of them was we started with the breath and breathing at the beginning, and that just sort of reorients your body and your mind into the practice. And then the practice itself, mostly physical, but there's always the breath there too. There's like this focusing on what's happening right here in front of you, but noticing the breath. And if things get hard in your body, like some of the strength may not be there, or the flexibility may not be there. And if the breath gets away from you, then you know that you need to sort of change your direction of what you're doing, so that the breath is always there with you and very calm and smooth during the practice. It's not always calm and smooth out in the world, right? But we're trying to practice a calm and smooth breath here so that the nervous system stays in a parasympathetic dominant area. And we'll do another kind of breathing practice before. But the other thing that came up on the poll is doing more balancing poses and poses for the lumbar spine. And we do many poses where we're strengthening the back body, because if you understand that the spine, the spine doesn't have muscles in the front, right? That's all where our belly and our organs are. The muscles are in the back. So the best we can do for the spine is to strengthen the muscles in the back here. And, we're lifting up from our bellies and kind of working on core support around the front of the belly, the muscles way in front of the spine that's not really touching the spine, but the way in front of the spine. So we're trying to make this whole portion of our body pretty integrated and strong. And then the other thing I want to bring up is that one thing we can do in all of our poses can support the lumbar if we think of alignment. So the more we're leaning forward, or we have our phone and we're, leaning forward, the head is coming forward and we're coming off of alignment. The body is very wise in its directionality of how the vertebrae are stacked. So the more we can keep the front body long and tall and the back body strong, we're going to be bearing weight on those lumbar discs, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. And so we want to think about long and tall throughout the whole practice. And that's again against the rounding of the upper back, because we don't want to put too much pressure on the internal vertebra at the very top, which can be very sensitive. The other thing about long and tall is not necessarily strong or even core, but think of our quadriceps and the hip flexors. We might feel really tight around the front of the hip, because most of the time we're sitting, you can see this, we're sitting and it's really shortened, right? So very rarely do we lengthen back here. So we'll try to do some more things like that to lengthen the front of our hip, because that's going to keep us, long and tall here. Does that make sense? All right. So, and that's going to support the lumbar spine. So it's, because we're upright and walking a lot. If you're taking walks and stuff, that's going to be helpful for the lumbar spine if we're in alignment, right? So we have to think about long and tall in alignment. All right. Okay. So let's do a little breathing first, a little practice of the breath that is something that we can do through the whole practice. So the last few weeks we were doing Nadi Shodhana, which is alternate nostril practice. And if you want to go back to the other videos, you can do that. And that's a nice practice to do. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't fall back to sleep, you can do Nadi Shodhana, and it kind of calms the nervous system, and this sort of cross-lateral connection to the brain really sort of relieves tension and trauma in the mind, So that's the alternate nostril. But during the practice that we'll be doing, in general, there's something called Ujjayi Breath, and we've practiced this before. We'll just review it now especially there's a few new people. Ujjayi is just making this whispering sound in the back of the throat. So you're closing the glottis without using the vocal cords. The vocal cords aren't there, but it's much like when you whisper or you're fogging up a mirror. So like, so if you go ahead and do that and feel for yourself, you're feeling that sound, and you can kind of maybe hear it in the back of the ears or the back of the throat. And then do it when you inhale as well. Dries out your tongue, but go ahead. Out, exhale and inhale. And then close your mouth and do that same sound. And continue like that, and you hear that really resonant sound. And it might be harder to do it on the inhales, but we try to practice that, keep going with the sound, just keep practicing that throughout the whole practice. We'll spend a few moments here really deliberately focusing on it. It kind of sounds like the ocean in the ears. Your own wave-like sound, which would be really meditative. And in order to make that sound, you're making a little vibration that's right next to the vagus nerve that comes down into your core, and it softens the tension in the body, and it turns on the parasympathetic nervous system. It makes you feel like, okay, we're calm, it's time to rest and digest, and we can actually absorb nutrients, and instead of running and fighting and flighting. Because when something happens and we take a short breath in, and sometimes we hold it, and there's a lot of tension in the body, and that can like hold it in the body in a almost like a traumatic event, right? It can be short-lived or it can be long. And we've been going through this year and a half of like global trauma, right? So breathing deeply with Ujjayi breath. Nice. And then so continue like that. And as most of you are in a comfortable seat, I think that everybody is. So let's find that comfortable seat. I'll join you on the floor. We'll start in a seated position. And you notice with your breath, with the sound, as you align your body, notice where the spine is, the lower belly drawing in and up, the spine migrating forward. There's space and length and regal sense of the spine and the collarbones. The hands can be wherever they rest, on the shins or the thighs or the lap. And then just turn your gaze down. You don't need to be looking at the camera. Just be focusing on that internal sensation of the breath. And then notice as you fill the lungs fully, go to the furthest part of your inhale and pause and feel the whole torso, the body connected to that breath. And then exhale slowly all the way out. Pause. And keep going back and forth with this 4 parts of the breath. There's an inhale and a pause. An exhale and a pause, deep and slow, feeling the very extent of your inhales and the extent of your exhales. Start to imagine it in 3D. So as you inhale, the rib cage expands from the spine all the way around you, out into the space around you. On the exhale, your spine gets a little bit longer and taller as you lengthen through the crown of the head, the shoulder blades release, breathing here. And then raising your gaze up, be aware of your place in the room. And we're going to move the body more so that the tissues get a little less tense and we can maybe breathe even deeper. So we'll start with the left hand out to the side. I'll be mirroring you, either fingertips down, or if you need to hold a block underneath so that there's a slight tip, but not a bend in the side body. Slight tip, and then you reach the right arm up and over at an angle. So feel from the pinky finger and feel what it feels like if you rotate that wrist towards the front or the back, and feel if you can feel the top of the shoulder rotating around, rolling the top of the shoulder away from your ear. Keep space in the neck and the shoulder, and you choose a space for your gaze, either down to your left fingertips, forward or up. Where does the tension feel like it needs to be released for you? And then keeping that left hand there, take your right hand over and let it dangle a few inches as you drop the left ear closer to your shoulder, tractioning the neck space from the ear to the shoulder tip. And noticing what's happening in this other shoulder. So if you're not sort of stopping the energy there, there's buoyancy in that elbow. Breathing here. And then exhaling, dropping the chin slightly forward as you lean over to the other side, either fingertips, heel the hand, or use a block. Lengthen up through the left side of your body, reaching through the pinky, rotate that wrist to feel the connection from the wrist, the elbow, the shoulder. The straighter the arm, the better. So you don't need to necessarily have the hand way far over. It's lengthening the inside and outside of the arm all the way through the wrist. Feel length, and we're taking a few long deep breaths here so that we start to feel how the body reacts with over time, releasing the tension. And then keeping that right hand there, left hand comes over and dangles as you drop the ear, your right ear closer to the shoulder, tractioning the neck space. Working on the scalenes, maybe even turning the gaze up or down slightly, just feeling whatever the tension is around the ear, the top of the shoulder. One side might be tighter than the other. All of this tension affects how deeply we can breathe and how we're holding our body up in space too. So that alignment I talked about earlier can be affected by anything where we're holding these points of tension. And then exhaling, dropping the chin slightly forward, bring the spine back to neutral and pause there with the head up over the shoulders. And next inhale, reach the hands out to the side, bring the hands overhead or forward. If it's up overhead is too much on the shoulders, press the palms and pause. Exhale, reach the hands out and down, smooth breath, and pause at the bottom of the exhales. Inhale, reaching out and up, slowly moving with intention and consciousness, and exhaling out and down. Coordinating with that slow, deep breath. Keep moving at your own pace. See if you can meet all 5 fingers across as you touch. This is a sense of proprioception too. We're not looking at our fingertips, and yet they end up connecting because we can feel ourselves in space. Let's each do 2 more. Pause at the end of that one. And these little pauses are like little mini Shavasanas so that the body can like integrate what it just did. We'll take a gentle twist here. And we're going to be bringing I'm going to turn to the side so you can see. I'm going to take the left hand behind you. And without leaning back, we're trying to keep the spine nice and long. Remember alignment. So maybe a block comes under there, maybe the fingertips or pick or something that you can rest your hand on. Turning the belly, then the heart and the chin. And depending on what your collarbones feels like, either you hold on to the left knee or the right knee. So the back of the hand could be on the right knee as you turn belly, heart, and chin. And gaze over your left shoulder. Breathing long and deep. Again, going back to the feeling of the collarbones and the rib cage expanding on the inhales. And the exhales feel a little bit longer on the spine. The lower belly is drawing in and up so that the rib cage is expanding the base of the rib with the diaphragm as it rises and falls. And keeping the hands where they are. Next inhale looks over your right shoulder. So you're just turning the cervical spine. Feeling for the tissues around the shoulders, the neck, the ears, the jaw. And anywhere else you're feeling this, the sensation, note for sensation and avoid pain. And then inhaling, releasing the twist and pausing with your spine in neutral. And then we'll go to the other side. So right hand comes behind you. Remember, don't lean back, put it on something or use your fingertips. Using one of your knees for your other hand, turning belly, then the heart, then the chin, gazing over your right shoulder. Keep nice and vertical, twisting gently, feeling for the tissues, turning, breathing. And then keeping the hands where they are. Next inhale just turns the gaze over your left shoulder. So turning just the cervical part of your spine. Keeping the spine long and breathing deeply. And then inhaling, releasing that twist and pausing for a moment with your spine neutral. Nice. Let's interlace the fingers and press the palms away. Bring the hands either forward or up towards the face, like as far up as you can go without feeling any strain in the shoulders, but keeping the shoulders down. So you're not hiking the shoulders up, you're keeping the shoulders kind of neutral and just moving from the elbows to the wrists. Maybe they come up further. It depends on what you feel like. We'll lift the belly to the spine to secure the base and then tip over to the left a bit. And then gaze down to your left knee. So rooting down through the right sit bone, pressing up through the palms, find that breath. Really challenging those spaces where we can take a deep inhale and a deep exhale. And then inhale, coming back to a neutral position, and exhale, tip over to the other side. Keep rooted through the left sit bone, gaze down to the right knee, press through the palms, supporting the core. This works for the lumbar. And then inhale, coming back up to center, and exhale, release the hands, bring them behind you, and either interlace the fingers back there, or if you have a strap, or you can hold your shirt. So you can hold your shirt or interlace your fingers or hold the strap to hold your hands together. So you choose how far you want to connect. lifting up through the front of the chest, and feel how the rib cage is kind of compacted underneath your armpits. If you can fill the lungs fully and breathe underneath the armpits and lifting the hands away. Maybe you drop the chin or lift the chin, get a little bit more up into the upper neck and around the collarbones. Breathing here, deep long inhales. Feel what it feels like if you are interlacing your fingers, if the heels of the hands can come toward each other. It changes the sensation around the upper arms. Take one more inhale here. And exhale, release the hands, pausing for a moment with your spine neutral. Maybe you feel a little bit broader through the collarbones. Nice. Okay. So we're going to come off of our seat. We're going to come to hands and knees. You're going to come either using a blanket under your knees if you need a little extra support, or you can double your mat if you don't have a blanket handy. Hands are underneath the shoulders, the knees are underneath the knees are underneath the hips, toes are drawing back. And they often say that cat-cow is not appropriate for those of us with osteoporosis. But we do need to keep mobility, especially in that lumbar space. So this will be just sort of a half cat-cow, or just focusing on the lower half of the body. We're going to keep the upper body parallel to the floor, kind of still, and then just do a little pelvic tilt. So you're tipping the tailbone up as you inhale. Maybe you gaze to the ceiling. Exhale, tailbone goes down, lift the belly to the chest. Maybe the chin drops to the chest. You're working mostly on the pelvis as you move with your breath and rounding here. And Melinda, you could do a little bit of this in the seat, right? You can do that with a little bit of pelvic tilting. Keep moving with your breath. The inhales, tilt up. The exhales, tilt down. Just bringing some fluidity to those joint spaces. And then completing the breath cycle you're on, come back to a neutral position. We're going to take the left foot back behind you and press into the ball of the foot, reaching through the heel. So the foot is on the floor, you're reaching through the calf, lengthening the calf. Just take a few moments there, because our breath is actually connected, the diaphragm is connected to the arches in our feet. So this is a little bit of a foot stretch and a calf stretch. Breathing here. And then keeping that left hand there, right hand come forward, palm facing center. Lift the belly to the spine to secure the core and push the left foot off the floor to hip height. Keep reaching and lengthening. Palm is facing the center. Keep length through the torso, belly to the spine. Take one more inhale here. Then exhale, just take the right hand down to the floor, but take the left foot across center. We're going to take the left foot across center and turn towards the left. Raise the left hand to the ceiling as you inhale. You're on your right knee, right hand, and left foot off center. And then exhale, reach that left hand overhead, long side body. So it reaches towards the front of your mat. Let the head dangle, breathing here, lengthening all the way through the belly space. And then inhale, reach back to the ceiling, and exhale back towards the floor, hands and knees. Nice. And then stepping your right foot back behind you, press into the ball of the foot, reaching through the heel, lengthen through the calf. Take a couple breaths there with the right foot stretching back. And then keeping that right hand there, left hand comes forward, palms facing center. Lift the belly to the spine, push the right foot off the floor to hip height. Supporting the core, lifting the belly, reaching long through the toes, to the fingers, the whole body's engaged. And what's touching the floor? Be aware of the balance in the right hand, the left toes. Securing from the core. Take a big inhale here. And exhale, take the left hand down to the floor, but take the right foot across the center over to the left side of the mat, turning towards the right. Reach the right hand to the ceiling as you inhale, then exhale, reach the right hand towards the front of the mat. Nice long sideline stretch, all the way from the pinky finger to the pinky toe. And then exhale back towards hands and knees. Nice. Now palms are right underneath the shoulders. If this is too much on the wrists, we're going to come into a plank pose. You could either make a fist in your hand so your fingertips are down towards the heel of your hand and you're on the knuckles of your hands if it's too much on the wrists, or maybe come down to the forearms. And we're going to step the legs back. You could do one at a time, working on balancing through the core, or take both legs back at the same time. Trying to keep one long line through the body. Nice. Lifting the belly, keep the chin neutral. Press down, rise up. Take one more inhale here. Exhale, bend your knees for a moment. Just come down on your knees. We're going to do this a couple more times. Sort of like a plank challenge. We'll get into your next position. Yes, it builds warmth. I see a lot of people shedding clothing right now. And then go ahead and come into your position, breathing here, one leg at a time, or both legs on your palms or your wrists, your knuckles. Just trying it one more time, the plank. Breathing here. Take one more inhale here. Exhale, bring your knees back down. Pausing there. Do we have one more in us? We'll do it one more time, 3 times. The charm. Okay. Taking one leg back at a time, and if you're doing one leg at a time, you're switching over after a couple breaths, or both legs, lengthening the spine, letting the tailbone go, reaching back through the heels. Lifting the belly, bring the shoulders over the wrists, breathing here. And now, this is one of the major ones for strengthening the spine and the core. Take a big inhale here. Exhale, bend both knees to the floor and then draw the torso down to the floor as well. If you have a blanket, probably best to remove the blanket underneath. And lower all the way to the floor. Nice. You can rest your chin on the floor or turn your head to the side just to pause for a moment. And then bending your elbows, place your hands on the floor underneath your shoulders and draw them back slightly so the elbows come off the floor, like grasshopper wings, I like to think of it. Draw the toes together, spread your toes, spread your fingers, then lift the nape of the neck, baby cobra here. So you're lifting the chest, drawing the elbows back, breathing long through the torso, feeling strength in the upper body. The hands could be pressing down to help you lift, or maybe the hands go light and the back body is doing more of the lifting. Drawing the shoulder blades toward one another. Keep space in the neck and the shoulder blade, the collarbones. Take one more inhale here. And exhale, lower the chin to the floor. Release the hands down alongside you. Palms facing up. And then coming into Locust Pose, we're going to lift the soles of the feet off the floor. Lift the nape of the neck. The hands could stay down, or maybe the palms lift as well. Thinking long and strong, collarbones broadening, reaching away from each other. The fingers, toes are reaching in one direction, the skull reaching in the other direction. Breathing here. Take one more inhale here. Exhale, lower down, chin towards the floor. And then moving with the arms behind you. So either the knuckles could come together behind your low back, or if that strap is handy, you can grab the strap or hold your shirt. You can hold the shirt to hold the hands together, or interlace the fingers. Draw the knuckles together. And then lifting the soles of the feet, lift the nape of the neck and reach the broadness of the collarbones forward. Whichever version. If your hands are interlaced, maybe the knuckles reach toward the heels. Breathing here. Broaden the collarbones. Like strengthen the back. Take one more inhale here. And exhale, lower down. Now, I haven't been cueing for the Ujjayi breath, but that's the breath we should be working on. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders again. Draw yourself up to hands and knees. And then we'll come into a gentle child's pose. The knees could be wide, perhaps. You're sinking the hips back. Maybe the forearms come to the floor and the head onto the floor, or a block. Sitting back and hinging at the hips. A nice hinge at the hips. Toes are spreading, releasing the back body. Breathing here. You even hear Ujjayi sound through the back of the throat. And sometimes in child's pose, because our arms are up closer to our ears, we sometimes get a little bit more of an echo of that sound. And then inhale, coming up through hands and knees. We're going to step our right foot forward here. Right foot forward. Bringing the torso up, the back of the back knee is on the floor. And again, if the knees need extra support, you can place a blanket under there or roll the mat over. Have a separate mat, roll over your mat to get a separate second layer. We're going to lean forward into this lunge. So this is where we're lengthening that hip flexor that I was saying gets kind of tight from there. Lean forward into the lunge. The hands could be on the thighs. Could be on your waist. You could even interlace the fingers here, draw the knuckles down to keep broadening the collarbones, keep lifting up through the chest. So a couple of options. Notice the right foot on the floor, keep the balance in the front of the foot. Lifting the chest. And if your hands are interlaced, you'll bring them back to your thigh. Come back over the knee with the hip and step that right foot back and gently switch over to the other side. So left foot comes forward, leaning forward into low lunge. So you're hinging forward. So the hip is in front of the knee. Yep. And then choosing a position for the hands, either on the thigh, at the waist, or interlaced behind you, lifting the chest. So finding more space along the front of the right quadricep. Breathing here. The more you press into the top of the right foot, the knee is a little lighter. So if the knee is sensitive, use the foot more too. Nice. And then release the hands. And let's sit back over the knee. Step that left knee back. And then we're going to pause here for a moment. We're going to come up to, we're going to tuck our toes. Actually, I'd like to do more with the feet. You're going to tuck your toes, sit back over your heels, and then play with this. Either sit back, literally sit back over your heels, tucking your toes, stretching the toes, feeling what that feels like. See if you can get all 10 toes down. And feel it's quite a sensation, right? Maybe coming up for less sensation with less weight, but you still have your toes tucked. It depends on if there's anything going on in your feet. So we're waking up the feet. Nice. One more breath here. And on your exhale, you'll untuck the toes and step the right foot forward, come forward and step forward up to a standing position. And we'll make our way to our mountain pose. Nice. And so your feet are flat on the floor beneath you. Either the toes are tucking, everything's coming to the center, or maybe they're underneath your hips a bit more. You're feeling the balance of the feet beneath you, spreading the toes, and then stacking. Let's talk about alignment or feel for alignment. As you're spreading the toes, pressing down, rising up. Notice what's happening in the knees. Maybe a slight bend in the knees is necessary. Sit bones are drawing toward one another, pubic bone and tailbone drawing toward one another. Feel length in those quadriceps. We're just lengthening into the hip flexors. Feel the lower belly draw in and up. Migrate the spine forward. Collarbones go broad. Hands are resting, but weighted alongside your body. Ears are balanced over your shoulders. Breathing here. Turn your gaze down your nose for a moment and just find that Ujjayi breath once again. Deep inhalations and deep exhalations. With as much sound as you can hear. If someone were in the room with you, maybe they would be able to detect that sound as well, but it's not about volume. It's about just that sensation and having an awareness of the sound for your body. And raising your gaze up, being aware of your place in the room. So being balanced through your mountain pose, you're going to bend the knees over the toes, sink back, and the hinging at the hips, spine stays long, right? Buoyant legs. So everything is squeezing to the center line. Maybe the toes are touching, maybe you're just squeezing to the center line. And from a heavy tailbone, reach forward or up or however far your shoulders can accommodate, and reach from the pinky finger forward, holding that imaginary block. Nice. Lift the belly, heavy tailbone. Feel balance in the toes and the heels. Keep the breath flowing. So as we raise our hands overhead, it sort of challenges, brings a little natural tension to that space where we want to breathe deeply. So we're working with that tension with a deep breath, keeping it soft. And then straighten the legs, reach to the ceiling, and exhale, legs come or arms come back down. And do that one more time. So sink back into your legs. You're hinging at the hips, long spine. Heavy tailbone, reach forward or up or however far. Put space in the neck and the shoulders. Reaching from the pinkies. Breathing here. Long, deep inhales, long, deep exhales. And then inhale, straighten the legs, reach to the ceiling, and exhale, hands come back down. Nice. Now hands to the waist. We'll separate the feet out medium distance, right underneath your elbows, if your elbows are out. We'll come into triangle pose with the right toes toward the right and the left toes in. So I'm doing my right and left, so I'll be going, probably looks like a different direction than you, but we're all doing our right side. right foot forward. And then hands are going to come up to a T, arms go wide. And then exhale, start tipping over, feeling that hip crease hinge. And then as you get far enough that you feel like you're tipping far, the back hand can wait at the waist as you try to connect somewhere on your leg. So the left hand comes, or right hand comes down to the knee, the thigh, the shin. The left hand could wait on the waist. You push the feet down and away. And then as your spine is lengthening, maybe you broaden the collarbones up with that upper hand reaching to the ceiling. Notice what's happening in your cervical spine, your neck. Keep space in the neck, the ears, the shoulders. Find that Ujjayi breath. Changing the directionality of gravity into our bones, breathing here. And then pushing through the feet, inhale, coming up, arms go wide. And then pivot the feet over to the other side to get ready for the other side. Left toes toward the left, right toes in. Inhaling here. Exhale, hinging over. Let's have the right hand wait as we connect the left hand down. Finding as far as the hips will accommodate, keeping both sides of the spine long. And then maybe broaden the collarbones by reaching that right hand up. The feet are pressing down and away. Breathing here. So even here, we're working a bit on the lumbar spine. Using the core to steady our body. And then inhale, coming up, arms go wide. And exhale, hands come back to your waist. And let's separate the feet a little further. Turning the right toes toward the right, left toes in, bending into the right knee, and really sinking into that hip. So there's a hip hinge here. It's like we're sitting on a chair with the thigh out. Right? And then bringing the hands out from our collarbones, broadening them out, pushing back through the left heel. Lengthen both sides of the spine. So notice if you're far forward or far back. Nice, Cal. It's a good adjustment. Breathing here. Take a big inhale here. Exhale, bring the left hand to the waist and hinge over your right hip. And either the hand comes on top of the knee or the forearm comes up on top of the knee, but both sides of the spine are long. And then that bent knee, the left hand could reach over at an angle to complete the side angle pose. You see that the whole side of your body is at an angle. Maybe the arm contributes to that, or maybe it waits on the waist. Keep the breath broad and the collarbones reaching up to the ceiling. And then pushing through the feet. Inhale, coming up through warrior two, straightening that right leg, pivot the feet over to the other side, coming into warrior two on the other side. So bending into the left knee like we're sitting down. So there's a hinge in the hip, but the back leg is rooted back. The torso is centered in the pelvis. Nice. Feel balance through the bottoms of your feet. Breathing here. Sorry, my dog's barking. Take a big inhale here. Exhale, bring the right hand to the waist as you hinge over, and either hand on top of the knee or forearm on top of the knee, depending on how far you can hinge into that hip without rounding the side. We're not working on the upper spine, we're working into the hips. Maybe the right arm reaches over. Nice. Find your breath, breathing deeply. And then inhale, coming up through warrior two, straightening that leg, turn the toes toward the side, hands to the waist, and then either heel toe or jump or step your feet to the center and pausing there, finding your mountain pose. Now we'll come into balancing pose. We'll come into tree pose because I like the sense of warrior two where we work deep into the hip. And now we're going to bring that hip in the same position as we were in warrior two, but we're going to bring that foot off the floor. So you could get yourself oriented with a support system if you want to have a chair or piece of furniture near you. From mountain pose, hands to the waist. We're going to shift our weight over to the right leg. I'll mirror you. Bend your left knee forward and externally rotate like we were in warrior two, right? So it's out to the side, and then bring the heel either into the inner ankle or up into the calf or up into the inner thigh. Those are options. And then maybe challenge the center of gravity by bringing your hand away from the support system or up to the heart or out, up or down. It could be any kind of change to the upper body. But externally rotating and finding all the little wiggles where our balance is, playing with that support. Spending some time, listen to your breath. Take one more inhale here. Exhale, hands come back to your waist. Inhale, bring the knee forward, and exhale, let that come back down. Nice. Second side. Shift over to your right foot, or left foot rather. Bending the right knee forward and out, so you're externally rotating at the hip, like in warrior two. And then bring the heel above the ankle, or the foot into the calf, or the foot up into the inner thigh. My pants are very slippery today. I can't do that. Maybe changing your hand position. Notice this side is different than the other. Maybe more or less wiggles, more or less balance. Listening for your breath. Take one more inhale here. Exhale, hands to the waist. Inhale, bring the knee forward. Exhale, foot back down. Beautiful. Okay. We're going to come to the width of our mat with our feet. So toes out, heels slightly in. Inhale, swing the arms out and up. Exhale, bend the knees over the toes. Keep the spine long. Just hinge at the hips, almost like a deep chair pose. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, hinging down. Long spine, hinge at the hips. Push through the feet and up. Again, down. One more time, up. And then exhale, hang out in that squat, wherever that might be for you. Maybe the hands are on the thighs or the knees. The forearms are on the thighs, maybe the elbows in the knees. Adjust the feet, find your balance with the feet planted on the floor and the spine nice and long and lifted. Breathing here. Keep balance through the toes, the heels, buoyant in the legs. You could come up at any moment. Breathing here. Take one more inhale here. And exhale, release yourself down to the floor, gently, gracefully making your way there. And we'll bring our feet together. Let's just do that real quick. Feet together, knees out to the side. Pushing the feet together and feeling where our pelvis is. So are you on the back of your sit bone, sitting more towards the tailbone? Maybe you can press from behind and come up a little bit further on top of your sit bones, even if you're sitting in a chair. Or maybe you're already on top of your sit bones, you can rock a little bit forward to the top of your sit bones and the spine just kind of migrates forward. So think of that whole pelvis spine connection, kind of one long line. Coming up and maybe over. Breathing here. Using the belly to the back, or drawing the belly back to the spine rather. Take one more inhale here. And exhale, release that. Draw the knees up. Let's turn over to one side. So you can lie over to one hip, roll down onto the floor. Come onto your back. And once you get there, your feet are bent, your feet are flat. Your knees are bent, your feet are flat on the floor, hip distance apart. You're going to adjust the shoulder blades and the spine so that your spine, or your hips and spine and shoulder blades, are all neutral and evenly supported. And bring your arms alongside your body and bend your elbows, palms facing each other. And let's keep pressing through the feet and slowly lift the tailbone off the floor. Press into the back of the arms, maybe rocking the shoulder blades a little closer. So using the strength of the quad, or the glutes, or your leg muscles, all the leg muscles actually wrapping around the hips, lifting your torso up, breathing here. Lengthening the quadriceps. Lengthening those hip flexors at the very hinge at the top of your leg. Take one more inhale here. Exhale, slowly lower back down. Release the arms. Let's do that one more time. Bend the elbows, palms facing each other, holding an imaginary block. Press through the feet, lifting up. Now, the more you're balanced on the feet, the more of the various muscles in your legs you're using. If you're more on the toes, you're using a one set. You're more on the heels, you can try that. You can push through toes or heels and notice how you relinquish some of the control over the legs lifting. So more balance through the feet, lifting up evenly through the legs, lengthening the front side of the quadriceps, breathing here. And then slowly exhaling, coming on down. Release the arms out to the side. Let's take the feet out wide to the edge of the mat. The knees are still bent. Take a big inhale here and exhale. Lower both knees over to the left and gaze over to the right. Inhale, coming back up, gaze to the ceiling. And exhale, let the knees go over to the right and gaze over to the left. Inhale, coming back up, gazing to the ceiling. Exhale over there. So go back and forth and follow that breath, using that Ujjayi sound to the back of the throat. It's like a trapeze with the sound and the movement, where you're moving and pausing and moving and pausing. One direction to the other. Rocking on the back of the skull, the back of the sacrum, the bottoms of the heels of your feet. The next time your knees come over to the left, you can pause there with your knees on the left. And push a little bit through your right heel to internally rotate that right hip a bit more. And maybe the left ankle comes on top of the right thigh. For a little extra encouragement to internally rotate, but if that doesn't feel right, you don't do that. Release the shoulder blades, gaze to the ceiling, and just release into the shape, softening the spots of tension. I'm still using that Ujjayi breath. And then releasing that left foot down to the edge of the mat if it's on your thigh. Inhale, bringing the knees up. Exhale, let the knees come over to the right. Once you get there, you push a little bit through the left heel to internally rotate that left hip, and maybe the right ankle on top of the left thigh. Completely optional on that part. Breathing here. And then releasing the right foot down if it's on your thigh. Inhale, bringing the knees up. And then exhale, you'll straighten the legs out wider than your mat. Arms are out wide. And adjust your shoulder blades so they're flat on the floor. Try to resist, if you can, putting anything underneath your head right yet. So you can let the spine sort of decompress in that kyphotic curve, kind of lengthen. But if there's extreme kyphosis, you're welcome to put something slight under the head for now. Palms bracing up is usually more open for the collarbones, with the fingers curling gently. Releasing the full weight of your body into the surface beneath you. Being aware of the space all around you. This feels like the right position for your Shavasana. You're welcome to stay right here. Otherwise, make any adjustments, getting anything you need to be comfortable for your final resting position. And releasing all the efforts in your body. Release the tongue from the roof of the mouth, release your jaw, release your neck. Release down through your shoulders, the reach of your elbows, your wrists, and all your fingers. Let your breath float away as you release down your spine, through your hips, through each of your knees, your ankles, and all your toes. And just take these last few moments of class in stillness, absorbing all the benefits of today's practice. And begin to deepen your breath. And spread your fingers and toes. Draw your legs together, arms overhead for a nice long stretch. And then bending one knee at a time, roll over to one side and pause there for a moment. Using your hands and your arms, gently make your way up to a seated position. And thank you so much for sharing your practice, your energy, and your breath. May your hearts be filled with loving kindness. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be healthy and well nourished. And may you be happy. Namaste. Thanks for coming. Thanks for staying past the hour. I'll turn the recording off. I'm happy to stay on to answer questions.